Has anyone here ever heard the term bacalao? It's the word in Spanish for cod. I remember how I first learned it. It was in first year Spanish back in high school, on one of those old Bell and Howell two-reel projectors. Our teacher had shown us a film about food in Spain, and cod was one of the dishes mentioned. As a further illustration, in keeping with the famously distinct odor of fish, our teacher pinched his nose and said it this way: "Bacalao." From that day forward, bacalao was one Spanish word I never had any trouble remembering. But had I merely studied it as just one term among many, as part of a thematic vocabulary list, or perhaps heard him say it just once, and simply so in a way more like this: "Bacalao is how you say cod in Spanish," would my retention of it have come quite as easily? Comprehensible input. It's presenting the language we teach to our learners in such a way that they are better able to get it, and that they are more clearly able to see how it is meaningful. In other words, showing them more vividly how it is applicable to wherever they are at in everyday life. Along the lines of presenting things in ways that are meaningful, in that I was able to get it, let me share with you a little bit about why my relationship with Jesus is the most precious of everything that I have. The time in my life when I got serious for him was back when I was a senior in high school. Back then, as I got involved with my church's youth ministry, I was really impressed by how other kids there reached out to me and made me feel welcome, emphasizing how important it was to them that I was there. This wasn't exactly the way things were at school. There, in spite of the hundreds of kids I was around every day, I felt lonely. With some of them, there were times when I really wondered if to them I even existed. At that time, emotionally speaking, this was the question on which I was living and dying. Though from when I was little, I had always known about the Bible, God, and Jesus, what really caused it all to mean what it does to me today was the way in which all of the youth group kids were loving on me. It made the difference in getting my attention and making me really want to get to the heart of what it's all about. When it comes to the message of the gospel, the love of Jesus Christ and why he died, the youth group really made their input of this comprehensible and how they reached out to and loved on me. What I would like to look at for today comes from Proverbs. Proverbs is one of the books of the Bible which are of a genre known as wisdom literature. The book is written as a collection of wise sayings, some in the form of Hebrew poetry, written by Solomon and others. The purpose of Proverbs is to help believers develop a healthy respect for God and apply it to various events in everyday life, graphically describing them as opportunities for making wise and foolish choices. Choices that could bring either blessing or disaster. In chapter 22, verse 6 of Proverbs, we read as follows: "Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it." To train up a child. The original Hebrew term, chanak, is defined as to educate, also to dedicate. The term is derived from another word in Hebrew, which pertains to what is inside the mouth. For example, the tongue, palate, gums, and also taste buds. Literally, it was a manner of educating newborn babies as to what food is. It had to do with placing a little bit of milk on their tongues so they not only recognize it later, but by instinct acquire a taste or an appetite for it. More figuratively, this had to do with educating a child or a young person that they might acquire a heart for knowing whatever it is they are taught, be it, I believe, the skill of recognizing, understanding, and speaking in a language, or anything else, including the development of character, especially according to what is correct and what is after God's own heart. What kind of taste will they acquire for what you have to give to them? Will it be salty enough to add real flavor and seasoning, so they might be more sweet on it and perhaps also on you for it? Or will it cause things to go sour on them, resulting perhaps in their being actually more bitter about it? Train up a child in the way he should go. For the way, the term used was derech, meaning road, march, manner, journey, or path. The actual translation of the original Hebrew in context reads as according to his way. What is meant by this? I believe it has to do with the duty of reinforcing the lesson, whatever it is, according to his temperament, habits, interests, inclinations, and abilities, but during the early years of life. In other words, teaching always with consideration of who the learner is as an individual, what makes him or her unique, communicating it in ways that are meaningful toward specifically their understanding. Crafting or tailoring the lesson in such a way that is palatable, that they are better able to get it, to more truly acquire a taste for it. Thinking of how comprehensible input works, presenting the new item taught in the context of what's already understood. I don't know about you, but I see a very interesting parallel here as we consider this. I believe that the principle to consider here, though, has to do with a very important nugget of wisdom for any teacher to keep in mind. In order that a learner may get it, really in a way that they never forget it, so that even when he or she is old, what is learned will not depart, it takes not only knowing the subject you teach, but knowing the heart of who you teach. No matter what it is you teach, directly with your language of specialty, or more indirectly in terms of modeling the faith, in this way, you, the teacher, are in the driver's seat in your classroom. Though on this one, as world language teachers, we may have our work cut out for us, the good news is that the resources we have to work with are all around us. Work hard to package your curriculum according to what specifically your learners understand. Take into account ways to present it that are meaningful to specifically your audience. Get to know your students for who they are as individuals and incorporate it into your lessons. Do this instead of merely doing it because it's what some expert who is actually somewhere other than in your classroom is saying you should do, just because it's according to the party line and current trends. No, you be the one to discern what best fits in your situation. As the one who knows both the substance of the language you teach and also the culture of the primary audience, that's the learners in your classroom, it's ultimately your call to make. It has to be. You are the one who is in the best position to see how to apply subject matter in ways that are meaningful to especially your students. At the end of the day, you are the only one who can really know what works for your learners. Be into them as you teach them. After all, they are the ones who really matter in the long run. No, it's not always easy. It takes a love for those who you teach, and so in order to be able to carefully observe and study them. What kinds of things might you happen to overhear them talking about, especially in moments when class is not in session? What extracurricular activities are they participating in? What are they involved with out in the community? What do they like to eat and drink? What sports and sports teams do they follow? What fashions are they currently dressing in? And where do they go to shop for them? What do they consider humorous and entertaining? What music are they listening to? What male pop stars are causing all the girls to swoon at the mere mention of his name? I remember how back when I was in 7th and 8th grade, it was Rick Springfield. Well, maybe he didn't cause every girl to swoon, but I do remember how back then it was his name that I often heard them mentioning. I even remember one time when a girl in one of my classes asked a substitute teacher if he ever listened to Rick Springfield. When it came to our ages at that time, this particular sub was a man who probably had about 50 years head start on all of us. But these are always examples of what your learners are identifying with and where their passions lie. If you are always on top of what's current with these kinds of things, you will always have resources to work with in showing how the language you teach is pertinent and applicable in everyday life for them. Comprehensible input. It's presenting the language we teach to our learners in such a way that they are better able to get it, in that they are more clearly able to see how it is meaningful. In other words, showing them more vividly how applicable it is to wherever they are at in everyday life. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. In the same way that the kids in the youth group showed me that the love of Christ is for real, in other words, making their input comprehensible by reaching out to and loving on me, we too can train up our learners in the language we teach. How might we do so in such a way that they acquire a taste for it by showing them where it's pertinent and applicable in everyday life, even according to where they are at? Remember, you are the one who is in the best position to do so, so they might be more able to get it. What kind of taste will they acquire for what you have to give to them? Will it be salty enough to add real flavor and seasoning, so they might be more sweet on it and perhaps also you for it? Or will it cause things to go sour on them, resulting in perhaps their being actually more bitter about it? It's ultimately your call to make. It has to be. What kind of taste will they acquire for what you have to give to them? Train up your learners in the way they should go, according to their ways, according to what's meaningful for them, so they are more able to get it. Be it your language of specialty, be it in setting an example as a role model for Christ, or be it bacalao. Even when they are old, they will not depart from